Men's literature has become a joke. It's filled with regurgitated fiction slop churned out merely for profits, or practical self-help guides, which definitely serve a purpose, but they're not touching upon the deeper elements of humanity that great literature does. And so in this video, I wanted to break down why literature is so important and needs to be taken more seriously in today's culture, and then share some practical advice on how to cultivate a deeper reading life. Starting with part 1, why literature's importance is being massively undervalued today. C.S. Lewis wrote, "I take our emotional life to be higher than the life of our sensations. Not of course morally higher, but richer, more varied, and more subtle." And he's right. If all we do is rely on our practical, literal sensations, our life will feel less alive, and we will lose a firm sense of who we are and what our purpose is, which I do think we're in danger of today because we live in a world where there are constantly conversations around men losing a sense of their role in the world, or men feeling lost. And one of the most under-talked about reasons is because we as men, much to our own doing, have reduced ourselves to a mere tool, mere practicality, which has trickled down into the books targeted at men. Like I said, they serve a purpose, but we need more than practical guides on how to focus, or make more money, or how to build better habits. We need actual stories, real stories that connect us, ground us, and don't treat us like idiots and tell us directly what to do and when to do it, but rather draw us into a story to allow us to draw our own conclusions and find our own purpose. Because as Hemingway and C.S. Lewis knew so well, when we are in the trenches of war, it's not a practical guide that tells us what courage is that will keep us fighting forward, but rather stories of love, family, morality, and country that will inspire us to keep going. Which is why in the middle of the Second World War, C.S. Lewis chose to address the nation on radio through short literary parables. It's why war inspired Hemingway, Ian Fleming, and Tolkien to write the beautiful prose that they did, because they saw life at its full force, and it led them to feel more alive and not fall into the shallows of the slop that we get today. And today is really the first time in history that literature, especially men's literature, isn't being taken seriously. From Plato in 300 BC, to Dante in the 13th century, to James Joyce in the 20th, all the way to Kazuo Ishiguro in the 80s, men have always had a rich literary culture. And I feel that it's no coincidence that now men are feeling more lost than ever before, why charlatans have risen up to try and corrupt men for their own personal gain, and why almost all of the books targeted at men are just regurgitated, dumbed-down ideas and analysis of greater books and greater ideas that were written centuries before, that honestly we would just be better off reading the originals of. And I think Plato put it best when he said, "They make a merchandise of words." And what he's saying there is that charlatans take words and turn them into something that they can sell, rather than something that holds great power, depth, and responsibility. Because at the end of the day, stories are vital to us at a granular level. It's no accident that across every culture in the world, on all different sides of the planet, they all had stories that were about a man slaying a dragon, or some form of beast to rescue other people, or stories of the virtue of charity, or true love, or love of family. Despite the fact that many of these cultures never met and never shared ideas together, there was still a similar understanding of what was good, noble, and virtuous. And most importantly, they understood that stories were the only way to pass down these deep ideas and keep them alive. C.S. Lewis referenced this when he said, "Myth, at its best, is a real, though unfocused gleam of divine truth falling on a human imagination." What he's saying there is that myth, or stories, or literature, is a way for truth to be spoken and reinforced in the world. And because of that, we need myths in society, in order to feel attached to reality, to feel closer together with other people, to feel purposeful, and really just feel alive. Which leads me to part 2 of this video, which is how we can cultivate a deeper literary life ourselves. First and most most crucial step when trying to improve your reading life is to not just jump in and read a classic, deep, complex book like Crime and Punishment straight away, because like what happened with me, it will only result in you, after 3 pages, putting it down in frustration. But I would rather recommend that you seek out analysis, or better yet, conversations about the book and its themes before you actually read the book. And you may think that this will ruin the experience because you want to take your own interpretations from the book and not someone else's, but actually this is crucial. And it's a practice that has been passed down from generation to generation, from the ancient philosophers in Greece to the Renaissance period, where they would have tutors or teachers or professors who would lay out the ideas and themes of a book before they actually read it, because that way they automatically have some firm footing when they begin to read, and they can then look for those themes and cling to them like a roadmap while reading the book. Then, after they've read it with those themes in mind and actively seek them out of the book, they now have a better ability at comprehending how the professor found those themes and how to look for those themes themselves. And they can then begin to read the book a second time and look for new themes that perhaps the professor didn't find or didn't share. Think of it like classical music. If you just start randomly listening to Brahms, so much of it will go over your head, and you will feel that it's just not for you. But if you watch a video on Brahms, or a documentary, or a breakdown of one of his pieces before you listen to that piece, you will find themes, ideas, and takeaways that you couldn't find before. It's like Plato's cave. Brahms is trying to tell you about the world outside, but you need to see the light first before you can actually listen or make sense of what Brahms is talking about. And so for me, I started reading Crime and Punishment, and I honestly just couldn't comprehend a single line. And so after about 2 or 3 pages, I put the book down, but then a few months later, just by chance, I stumbled on a video on Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms. I then watched a documentary on Hemingway because I was interested from the video, which then led me to want to finally read the book. After reading A Farewell to Arms myself, I absolutely loved it, and it led me to read more Hemingway novels, which then led me to read his friend F. Scott Fitzgerald, which then led me to read James Joyce, and then all the way from there I trickled back to Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, and all of a sudden I was so much better at analyzing literary texts that I could actually piece together some of the ideas that Dostoevsky was writing. But I still wanted a little bit more clarity, so I took what I did with Hemingway and I listened to a few lectures on the novel. Then I listened to a few podcasts about Dostoevsky. Then all of a sudden, those deep words in Crime and Punishment spoke off the page, and he has since become my favorite writer of all time. Which leads me to the second step of trying to cultivate a deeper literary life, which is to follow your own curiosity. If you're not enticed by Dostoevsky just yet, then don't read him. You have to make it fun, enjoyable, and energizing, so start wherever you want. Start with the Iliad, or start with James Joyce, or start where I started with Ernest Hemingway. It really doesn't matter, just as long as you follow your own curiosity and whatever story you find interesting. As Leonardo da Vinci called curiosity la migliore guida, the best guide. And he was honestly right, because I had to follow my own curiosity, which led me from Hemingway to Russian novelists, all the way to Dante. And so if you start by actually listening to some analysis on these great books, and then follow your curiosity starting with the ones you want to read, and allow that to spur on your next read, and your next read, and your next read, eventually your life will radically change like it did for myself. As now, I just cannot get enough of ideas and books, and it just makes me feel so much more nourished, so much more fulfilled. And while I still do like reading some of those practical guidebooks, some of those self-help books that break things down into an easy, literal, granular level, that isn't going to fully fulfill you. You need more complex ideas, more deep themes. You need to go back and read stories, not just books that outline every step for you. Because while those guides are good for getting things done or coming up with good systems, you still need to know why you're coming up with systems. You still need to know what you're working towards, what you want to focus for. It's not enough to just focus, it's not enough to just work hard, it's not enough to be more productive or learn the laws of power. You need to also contemplate the deeper ideas that humans have been talking about and contemplating for centuries. And it really is just so under talked about today, but I truly feel that it's one of the most vital pieces missing, especially for men in today's modern culture. But with that said, I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, like the video, hit subscribe, and until next time, take care.